Okay, so let's start this little department meeting. Welcome all. Also, you guys who are watching this online. There were some questions. Yes, we record it, and yes, you will be able to look at it during the weekend. There's nothing fun on TV anyway. So this is a department meeting. The reason why we wanted you guys to get some first-hand information is that recently quite a few things has happened, and it's always interesting to hear what's happening now. For instance, after we got this Masters of Engineering degree a couple of weeks back. So I'll see what happens now. I just need to find my ways around this system here. So 2018, no, yes, it is actually the salary revision 2018. We are not improving on this process. We are slowing it down. But hopefully, the idea here now is that the revision point, which was October 1st, that still holds. So you guys will get some extra money. You know, the university is the bank right now for you. No interest rate, but hey, you get some extra money. And the money will be paid out with the May salary. So perfect for the first barbecues and so on. At least that's the most recent message I got. And as long as I don't hear anything else, that's the truth. So what happens now is that I will meet you all, that is all who are affected by this revision, which excludes the professors. They will talk to the dean. PhD students, you are on this salary ladder, and also no one else. So all assistant, associate, and regular junior lecturers will meet me. And then, you know, there are two options. If you're not a member of any trade union, you will just be notified that this is your new salary. Otherwise, there is this, and some say the only benefit of being a member in the trade union, that if you, for some reason, disagree with what I suggest should be your new salary, there is an opportunity to push it one level up. And this is a new thingy for this year, that we will no longer have these four-party talks. They had a very heavy process in the recent years where first we had first face-to-face meetings with representatives from the university, the head of department on one side, and then the employee and the trade union on the other side. And the reason for that was to further motivate and discuss the salary, and the outcome of those discussions were not great for no one. So they changed that, and what will happen now is that they will directly push it into central negotiations instead. So they cut away that intermediate step. And one of the reasons why it has been delayed this time is that there has been central negotiations for a new 3-year agreement between, in Stockholm. So you understand why it has taken some time. So any questions on the salary revision? Not, too much to say. I will meet you all, as I said before. Okay, some other news. Just the other week, we received some nice news about a new Avance project, if developing a new master's in what was the title? Anyone? Digital something, learning something. And some order of those were and some words in between. This will hopefully start sooner rather than later, because there's also this new program that will start next year, where we have 2 entry points, one for students with a degree in pedagogics and one for students with a degree in media technology, and they should meet in one joint master's program. But that's a promising development, and I guess that some of you will be directly involved in this project. What else? If you look at the things will come in an awkward order here, but that's for a reason. In this KKS Complete Knowledge Environment project that I will say a few words about in a couple of minutes, there are a couple of opportunities for, you know, that KK they have some calls for recruiting people. That has delayed some of the open positions because suddenly we have the opportunity to get some, or at least apply for some of those funds. However, that can take a while, and that it will affect some but not all of these open positions. And before we have all information at hand, it's kind of difficult to decide which ones that should be in and not. But yesterday, some of these things were settled. We received some information when we met with KK, and that means that during April, before Easter, we can make the decision, and before end of April, the positions that we will announce without KK funding will be pushed through the system. Okay. And now I will do the next forward reference. Very since we are getting this new degree, Masters of Engineering, and also due to some other changes in staffing and so on, we need to reconsider our entire education offering. So we are now in the double digits in terms of number of education programs. I think we're like 12, 13, 14, like something like that. And that's not appreciated at all by anyone, except maybe, or not even by students, I would say. But we need to think a little bit about the future. And there are some ongoing changes already. We have the master's program in media technology that is currently undergoing a revision. We have plans for a revision of the web programmer program together with the what's the name of it in English? Development and Operations Program. Something like that, yes. So the idea there is, the web program is a 2-year program. The development and operations is a 3-year program, but the idea is to merge the two into one. So there are some ongoing projects, and then we have the big one that Morgan will tell you much more about in a while. So there is a need for a so to say, take on the entire offering here. So where should we go, or what are the options? And that means that we need to sit and think, or maybe I should say we. It shouldn't be me. It should be I. Primarily, my intention is to put all the program coordinators on an offsite for 2 days to come up with some brilliant solution and plan, and then come back after summer and discuss this on department level. Okay, so there are many other small things going on. We have this educational board that is slowly starting to move. The idea there is that we will shift more and more responsibilities to that. The educational board consists of all the program coordinators, and one of the ideas is that they should take responsibility for quality assurance of our programs, and also for the courses. And that means that you will soon start to see the consequences of that. So it might be that you, if you're a course coordinator, you will be receive a set of questions or even instructions to reconsider everything from course literature to learning outcomes, assignments and so on in your courses. But that is something that we will introduce step by step. We will not come up with a revolution. It will be more like evolution. That is something that I hope you will start to see the effect from in say May, or at least before summer. Okay, moving on. I'd like to say a few words about this complete knowledge environment. I mentioned it during the Christmas offsite, and we have been working on this for, well, since then, and we have met the representatives from the Knowledge Foundation a couple of times. And the idea here is that KK, they want to change how universities work strategically. It used to be like the university's responsibility, but the idea here is, at least if you read between the lines, that they, KK, would like to take a responsibility also for forcing universities to work more strategically. So we have discussed this for quite some time, and tried to come up with some theme for a knowledge environment. And when it's complete, it's not complete with respect to the department, but it should be complete with respect to education, research, and outreach. And there should also be, there is also an excellence criteria. So this group should have a track record with, well, respect to KK calls and other important funding organizations. So the result of this pre-processing was that the KK board decided that they select one group, one department in Sweden for this, and that's us. I told you this before, but based on where parts of the department work, we came up with a positioning of the theme for this knowledge environment to be somewhere around cyber-physical systems, or I would say the next generation of cyber-physical systems with that are more pervasive and involves humans more, and it affects our daily lives and not necessarily just industry or transportation or something like that. So what we've been doing is to figure out what KK should expect from someone who participates in this future call. So this is what KK considers a prototype. And we are like the lab rats here, where they ask us to work and come up with something that qualifies as an application. So they had some vague contours in December, and then we started to walk in that direction. We showed them something and they say, no, you should not walk too far in that direction, you should be also considering that. And then we walked in that direction, and we've been like back and forth now a couple of times, and now we started to define a structure that I think the message from yesterday's meeting was that, yeah, this is a good enough structure for this. And this is a call that should have a 10-year perspective, because it's about growing an environment. And that means that you have to think about not just growing that environment, but that environment should also have an effect on society. So it's about moving state of practice from now to something 10 years from now. And what has an effect on state of practice is the state of research. So in order to move the state of practice, we need to both perform research and educate. So by moving the state of research and educate, we can affect the state of practice. And then we should also define the environment that should do the research, that should be responsible for the education. And that's the smarter systems environment that we have decided to call our little group of 31 people. So it's 31 out of 60 employees at the department who are directly affected by this work. So this little application should start with the future, because that was one thing that KK threw back at us. Well, we gave them the wet dream of a bureaucrat. We started with the numbers, the university, the faculty, the department, and after 23 pages they said, hey, this is not funny, we don't want this. We want something that tells us about the future, where you guys want to be in 10 years. So we returned to the desk and provided them with some should be speculative, but not too speculative. There should be some anchoring in the current status of the environment. When you decided on the future, you describe now to them. And now means state of practice, state of research, and state of this environment. In terms of research, in terms of education, in terms of support, organization, etc. So now we have a gap. And this gap is then this program meant to fulfill using various initiatives. And you all know that KK, they have several calls in three categories. Recruitment, they have, or competency, I should say, competency. We have educational programs and we have research programs. So what they want in the final part here is to roadmap the development of this smarter system environment for the coming 10 years. So that's quite an effort just to, if you imagine 10 years, that's 2 generations of PhD students. So coming up with well, Danny put it nicely yesterday, coming up with an idea for a PhD student is kind of okay. 5 years perspective, fine. But you never really knows what happens then. But still, that's the challenge we're working on right now. But then, well, road mapping means different recruitment initiatives, different research projects, research calls, and different educational initiatives. All matched not just by KK initiatives, but also by from other funding organizations. So it's quite an extensive work, and we're supposed to finish this in 3.5 weeks. No, we should have the first draft, full draft, ready in 3.5 weeks. Then after that, there will be an external advisory slash evaluation board that will have a look at this and not necessarily evaluate the application, but more provide feedback on it. So it will more or less be a rebuttal process where we will receive comments that we can address. And they are so nice because they will provide the comments before midsummer, and they expect the final application mid-August. So we all know what we're going to do during the holidays or summer vacation. So what they ask us to do is to plan. So what type of competency do you need if you want to move the state of practice from here to there? What type of education initiatives will you run? What type of research is needed? And we're starting with 31 people, and well, if this works out the way we plan, that number will more than double in 10 years. So more people currently at the department will hopefully get involved, and also new people will be added to the department as a consequence. So one of the guys we met yesterday, he showed us how they measure impact and focus, and they use that to guide the evaluations of this environment. So what they would like to see is that we as a department come together even more, focusing on certain research questions. They believe that Swedish institutions are typically too small to become relevant in an international perspective, and the only way to become that is to focus and specialize. We'll see what we do about that, but right now it's hard work on this application. So do we have any questions about this? We will involve more and more people in the next couple of weeks, because now we're starting to close in on these initiatives, and some of you will be involved in that. So no questions? I think that from a research perspective, this can be as important for the department as this little thingy was or will be for the university. It's kind of interesting to see how when this was announced, that okay, there were some reactions, but I don't think that people really understand how important this is, and not just for the university, but for the region. And also, most of us probably don't understand how much work it will be involved in this. Therefore, we invited, or I invited, or no, I told him to come, Morgan, to give us some nice introduction to what's ahead in this process. And if the pictures don't look good, it's all on my side, because I asked Morgan to send me the PDF, and I will do a great job incorporating it into my PowerPoint. Maybe not. So, but Morgan, please. I have to get this one out. Alltid mycket intressant. Fan. Så.
So, I'll just warn you that I am extremely low due to a cold today. So if I stand here, look bored, it's because of the cold. And some sadness looking at this, because it looks horrible compared to what you were about to see. But like Jesper said, in case you missed it, we were granted these rights. And this was, when I went back and checked my email, work that started in 2015. So it's almost 3.5 years of work that went into this. Anders and I had an email conversation yesterday trying to figure out if this was the 3rd or 4th time we tried. We couldn't really decide. We know for sure it's at least the 3rd, maybe the 4th. So we've tried this before multiple times, the last time in 2011, so about 6-7 years ago. So it is a big thing that we got it granted. It's maybe not a big thing looking nationally, because we were starting to be like the odd one out with so many other universities, even places like Jönköping having these rights. So it was really important for us to get it, which also, of course, increased the pressure when we tried to do that. What was most of the work about? Oh my God, this looks horrible. And can't really say much about it, right? Anyway. You have to imagine that some things are not moved around as they have here, because I don't dare to bring my laptop and plug it in and see what happens, because I'm sure we will break something. What we did is, for the application, we had to design a full program. So we had to do all the work. We had to write all the syllabus for the program, for the courses. We had to plan the courses, we had to put them in the right place, how many credits, which level, what were the prerequisites. So all of that is done, and I know that many of you know that because you've helped out to write these. And that is a great help now, because that means that we don't start from nothing. We start with an almost finished program. Unfortunately, as Mauro and a few others have decided, discovered we were sometimes quite ambitious when we did this, and maybe not realistic. So for courses on the master level, and I will get to that in a minute, we don't have too much choice because we're already rolling them out. For courses on bachelor level, we will have a second chance to revise things. And we've actually, for those of you who know the program inside and out, and I suspect I'm the only one, who discovers that we've actually swapped 2 courses here on the request of mathematics. And it actually turned out to be better. But we are now at the point where this is decided. I will not change this again until we really have to. But we have the program, we have the courses, and what we will need to start doing now is basically start from the top. For those who don't understand to read it, this is the top, and then we move down like this. And I'm sorry if you can't see that on camera because I was covering up some stuff. It's not super interesting. But anyway, what we will need to do is start at the top, define these courses, make sure that they work, get them into the system, give them, in this case, we use fake course codes. So we have 01, 02, 03 for all the courses. We need to give them real course codes, tweak the names. Some people don't like this jämnlöpande program for concurrent programming, which is correct in Swedish, but we have to figure out a new name for that. So a few of them will start to change names. And if someone, when you look at this, I will try to send out the proper version so you can see, if someone were to see some minor things, we can start to deal with that on the organizational level. We just don't want to have swaps that affect prerequisites or changing. Let's say if we were to move this course to there, that would mean taking a 5-credit course and putting it together with a 7.5, and that would not add up to 15. So there are a few such things that will be difficult to do. So I talked about the rollout, and for those of you who have been part of this process, you might remember the year 2020. That is when we intend to start this. So that also means that we are not rushing, but we are not moving slowly. We expect this program to be up and running by next year, and we expect to have the first set of students. We're planning for 30 of them to start down here with discrete mathematics and programming in September 2020. To make it more fun, like I suggested, we're doing another rollout. So we're basically taking this part down here, which is the master's levels, and we say, why not start with that already? So we're actually rolling out the master's part 2019. So starting this autumn, we will be starting with our modeling and simulation course and our new compiler construction and this new project course. So we are rolling out a version of the program already this year, and that was the thing that we will need to start to work on fairly quickly. These are all set, so we can't really change the syllabi, but we are at the point where, I mean, this is frank and honest. Down here, it will be very, very bad if we fail. When we get these 30 students, we need to make sure that they get to this point, or at least as many of them as possible. If we get to this point and have 5 left, then we have quite a lot of courses that we need to run at a loss. Given how the number of students and the quality of students have been looking at master's level, if these are not great, it's not the end of the world. It's of course better if they're great, but by rolling them out now, we give ourselves some time to practice this idea of having courses that tie into projects and multiple projects with a progression within projects. So that's why we decided to roll out these and basically lock down the syllabi here. And that's also why we're giving everyone a chance to sort of get back and work and revise these. We get into a bunch of technical details here, and that's just to show some of the things that we're fairly proud of, and that's that we built this extremely modular. So we have this, which is the 2-year version. We also have a 1-year version. And we are considering, and I honestly don't know if we can do it or not, to have a second 1-year version where we focus, instead of starting with this modeling and simulation, we start with the InfoVis. So this would basically be an InfoVis master of 1 year. The reason that I'm a bit concerned is that if we want to roll this out by 2020, I don't know when we need to submit the program syllabi. Maybe we're too late for that. I will try to see. Sorry?
End of April?
Yeah. So
questions I've answered there, like you have to submit in April, but nobody gives
Yeah.
me a strict date. So it's just
Yeah, yeah. No, so we're going to try to push this. I know that for the Swedish, the big version, this version here, it's June. So we have some time here. For this one, if we want to do it, and I mean, it's basically zero cost because we will be giving all the courses. It's just that we let them start here instead of starting at another place. So it's really just if we can match the deadline or not. So that's one of the things that I am investigating. So we will have this nice complex picture where we have the rollout schedules. And the reason I included these down here is just to show that we will have plenty of practice for the master's level courses before we actually end up getting to the point where the engineers reach them. And there is one benefit of that here, and that is if you look at these, sorry, let's do this one. We tried to keep a very sort of structured approach. So we have 4 courses and a project. You can see 4 courses and a project, 4 courses and a project. Some of these courses have this pink-white thingy. That means that they are replaceable. So these 2 here are mandatory. They're taken by everyone. These 2 are less mandatory. And that is because some courses, such as scientific methods, needs to be able to be placed the semester before they take the thesis project. So for the 2-year master, it's here. On the 1-year master, sorry, the wrong way, you can see that it's already here. So that means that we cannot make all the 4 courses in one of these master's blocks mandatory. But it also means that we can start to think in terms of new such blocks that we can roll out, because we will have, if you look at the big picture here, we start down here 2023. So we have plenty of time before the master's level students hit this point. So that means that if we want to design new versions of these 4 courses and a project, we can start to do so. Because what we would like, and that was one of the criticisms that we got for this project, is that we have very limited sort of tracks, very limited customizability of the program. We basically say that almost everything is mandatory. And it's hard to see on this picture, but we basically just have 2, 4, 5 points where you have customizability in the program. And if we can get to a point where we in 2023 have more such points, that would be great. So if you can think about things that you would like to develop, and it would be nice if you could come up with some cohesive theme. So here, for example, we have InfoVis and data mining as the theme, and then scientific methods because it has to be there. And then a project that takes these skills and use them on a practical example. And it shouldn't be too hard to come up with a theme of, let's say, 2, 3 courses plus a project in, I don't know, security, in computer vision, or something that you think sounds interesting. So that is one of the things that I'm sort of pushing to you. Since we are doing this for the Master of Engineering mainly, they should be courses that sort of needs all of the first 3 years that people go through. So they should require mathematics, physics. They shouldn't be simple courses with lots of sort of social and soft stuff. They should be hard. They should be something that you need to be an engineer to start. So that is the point about the rollout. So the good rule, I agree with Ilya, it's very hard to get firm dates when you talk to people here, but it seems to be roughly a year in advance. So you can easily start to count backwards. So I said that for these courses here, we need to be done about October this year. For these courses here, I would assume about a year before they're about to start. So later fall, maybe early spring, and so on and so forth. So you can see that it gives us quite a lot of time, because courses over here, we don't really need to start to think about for another 2 years, especially since we have a fairly complete draft of it. I'm not saying that we should wait for it, but we should also not rush and make sure that we have all the program fixed, because we will still need to go back and change the book, change the goals, and so on and so forth as we tweak things. By the way, I didn't say, but if anyone has any questions, just interrupt me. So, first 4 courses in October, and then we will just keep a rolling schedule. And if we need to move it up, if we need to push it up, we will do so. Yeah.
This sounds great, but
Yeah.
it's complex to understand. Yes, we mentioned there are 2-digit numbers programs. Now you mentioned there is civil engineering and there are some variation of the master engineering.
Yeah.
Does it mean that the 2-digit numbers will increase? That will need to be serviced by the department, or?
So I mean, the idea here is that.
Repeat the question. I think that's for the guys who are.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I think that what you're saying is that this looks like we get a whole lot of additional programs, and if we want to reduce the number of programs, not increase them.
Okay.
But the main point here is that we get programs for free. So what we tried to do is look at how do the big universities. One of the things that we have had as at least something that I kept in the back of my mind all the time is that we should not be novel. We shouldn't reinvent this engineering program. We should do what everyone else is doing. And what everyone else is doing is basically the 3+2. So you have 3 years basic stuff, 2 years master. And if we have a 2 years master part, why not announce that as a separate master's program? We might get a few extra students. And if we have a 2-year master, why not have a 1-year master as well? And then it turns out that with this sort of block thing that we have, we can actually have 2 1-year masters, one that starts from year 1 and one that starts from year 2. So basically, everything except for this here comes for free.
But with this variation, what's the gain?
The gain is that we can offer courses and we can offer programs. And if we only get like 1 extra student, it's not at too much cost. We have to announce the program.
Having a full program for 1 student?
Yeah, but there are no extra courses. They take exactly the same courses.
The courses will run for the other programs.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to your point, the extra cost, I mean, from here, they will be free if we have only the masters. So running them from here will have a cost. But if we were to stop running them from here, we would basically cancel our master's program and say we don't have a master's program.
And maybe there's a
Yeah.
formal requirement, but why all of the courses are 7.5? Why you have not?
They're not.
More considered of 15, like a blocks and
Yeah,
project independent
yeah.
project work.
So
Because
what?
this also is a lot of administration just to
Yeah.
take care of the course goals.
Yeah. No, so what we've done is actually move the other way around. So we said, why have 7.5 credit courses? That's too large. So we've gone down to 5, 10, and 7.5 as our main building blocks. And now you may say, why 5? Because that gives us more courses. But the reason we did that was to avoid having this like model-driven simulation and design and databases. So we have a large course that encompasses many things. We could, of course, say advanced computer science, 10 to 15 credits. Sorry, 10 to 25 credits. But we didn't want to do that. So we decided to go smaller, but have more focused courses. And that means that you sometimes, like here, have 3 courses in parallel. We tried to follow the same like study period division. So that means that a 7.5 course and a 5 credit course run over the same time. It's just that the 5 course runs at the 3rd pace while the 7.5 runs at 50% pace. And that's because we don't want to have differences in study periods. But we have 15, 10, 5, and 7.5 somewhere courses. And of course 30 for the master thesis. Yes, Anders?
En fråga. De som börjar på masterprogrammet i höst,
Yeah.
får de civilingenjörstiteln?
Nej. Just to repeat, if you start the master's program, you will get a master in computer science. You will not get an engineer, a civil engineer's degree. And that doesn't matter what you've studied before. We will, at some point, at least discuss having a bridging set of courses between högskoleingenjör and the master so you can get a civil engineer. But that is something that has to come a bit later once we have everything figured out, because we need to figure out which courses here should you be able to take. But one of the design choices we made is to move much of sort of the engineering part to the first 3 years, so we have more flexibility on the master's level and can make that more tied to the research that we do. So, some of the things I want to talk about before we end this, and not to get too sort of long in talking about this, is that one of the things that is going to be extremely important here is quality. We've done a hard work trying to get a program that is as good as we possibly could do. And now we need to implement it so that it stays as good as the design is. I mean, it's hard to say that a design is good because we haven't really tested it. It's like saying, oh, my UML diagram is so beautiful. And then if we try to implement it, maybe it's crap. But what we need to do is make sure that we try to implement this as well as we can. And there are 4 things that I think will be important. And the reason I stress these now is that some of you will start to work on this in just like a month or 2. Some of you will start even closer for the master's level program. I think next week is our meeting there. But what we tried to have here is structure as one of the pillars. And I like structure. I like nice boxes and things in their places. And that's something that I would like to continue here, because it may seem stupid. Much of this may seem like just stupid names for things, but it has been super helpful for designing this program. And I think once we start to get to work with that, it will be helpful. Coordination. Right now, one of my frustrations is that many of the courses are isolated. We don't talk to each other. We don't coordinate. I don't know what's going on in the 5 courses that students are taking in parallel to mine. Here we have a very tight program, so we need coordination between courses. We need communication between people running courses and the program manager. For the master's level now, I've been very, very hands-off. So to be honest, I don't even know exactly what the contents are in some of the courses given in my master's program. And that's bad. That's something I would like to change. So we're going to have a bunch of communication. And one thing that I really like is this openness. And that is in a sense to combat something that Ilya talked about, like all these dates, how do we do things, what are the processes? And here I would like to say, let's define our own processes. So for the structure, we have 3 things to deal with. And that is, of course, the course syllabus. This is a super important document, and that is what the student is seeing and taking sort of action against, and that we are supposed to follow. Sometimes we're bad at this, but for this new program, this will be like the law. If it says something in the syllabus, it should be like that. So if it says there should be an oral exam, it should be 5 credits, then there should be an oral exam, 5 credits. You cannot change it. If you want to change it, you change the syllabus. And you will not be able to change the syllabus without going through these extra steps of checking so that the course is still valid within the program before we can actually change it. We will try to be harder on the course evaluations to make sure that you're actually following the syllabus, because if you start to drift from that, then we lose important goals, we lose important connections within the program. For each course, we will have what is known as an introduce, teach, use, examine matrix. And this is basically mapping the course to overall goals that the education should contain. We use the CDIO standard, conceive, implement, design, operate. But these are just a set of goals. They could be any kind of goals. We pick these because we like them, and they are fairly standardized. So that means that your course will, via this document, be mapped to the goals of an engineering education, and we have a matrix that maps all courses to the goals, so we can see how well we fulfill the big set of goals over the entire program. What we are going to do is start from this document, because this is important. Here is where we catch the goals, and we talk about how we deal with the goals. We map it back to the syllabus, and if all these go back to the syllabus this way, if all of them together fulfill the goals, we will be happy. So these documents are extremely important, and for all courses running, I will expect there to be at least these 2 nicely up to date. We have nice scripts that generate this one, so we don't have to worry too much about that. We have had some work, and here Jonas and the CDIO group has been instrumental. So we are now at the point where we're almost able to have tables in our syllabi descriptions in Kursinfo. So we will be able to have this goal fulfillment table where we show which examination checks which goal of the course. And these will be generated for us, and they will look a bit better than this one. There's supposed to be some tick marks here, but they seem to have gone. We expect there to be this examination table where you say, what is this thing that you have in LADOC, which is the code for it, what do you call it, which grade is it, how many points is it? Just to keep things structured, simple. And then you can see, okay, this one here examines these goals. It's worth 3 credits, so it should be a reasonable set of goals. And if you tick a goal here, and I come and ask you as program manager, how do you check this goal in this assignment? You should have a good answer. And if you don't have a good answer, then we need to think again, because this is, again, one of the things quality is all about. Here is what this big IUA matrix looks like. So you can see these U's and A's for the courses. You have the courses here, you have the goals here, and you have some names filled out. And this gives a nice overview, like a dashboard of how well does the program fulfill this goal 2.5. Not great, right? So we hope that this is not a super important goal. If this would have been a year ago, I could have told you what 2.5 is, but unfortunately, I don't remember anymore. But it's something, it has something to do with like problem solving, because that's what the 2 section is all about. I don't think our CDIO expert remembers what 2.5 is, no. And this is what this list for the course looks like. So you have the goals, you have what examines it, and then you're supposed to have ticks here. If you introduce something, that means that you give a brief overview. You don't really examine it. You just say, this is how a database works. But you give a very high-level introduction. They're not supposed to do anything with it. You can teach something, then you're supposed to examine it. That's more in-depth teaching. Or you use something, and that means that the course that comes before your course has to introduce it. And then you can have some comments here. So for example, this is for deep learning. So we say that they should know vectors and matrices. They should know probability distributions. They should know some other things from mathematics. So that is from courses that are prerequisites. We can see that, don't we have, I can't find a teach here. So we say we teach how to select and how to motivate a specific neural network architecture. So that's something that we're supposed to teach, and it's something that we're supposed to examine, and we do that via the first practical work. I talked about coordination, and again, think of these as sort of blocks of courses, so there should be some spacing between these two here. And the point here is that we will end up in situations where we have courses that should have some connection between each other. We will start very heavily with mathematics, and we need to be very sort of helpful to the students to help them understand why we need that. So one of the reasons we place discrete mathematics and the first programming and data structures course in parallel is to be able to show the parallels between discrete mathematics and data structures. We can talk about graphs here, we can talk about graphs there, we can talk about trees here, we can talk about trees there, logics, and so on and so forth. We have the programming and the project. You should learn enough programming here to be able to do an interesting project here. If there's something that you need in this project, you need to push it back and say, could you please cover how to do that? Could you please cover how to install Python modules on this system, because we're going to need that on the Raspberry Pi. You might have databases and data modeling in parallel with object-oriented analysis and design. And I mean, here, maybe it would make sense to use UML in both cases, because then you would learn the same syntax, the same tool in 2 different things and see perspectives on it. But you need to be very sort of synchronized when you talk about these things. Maybe not in time, but when you call things or use syntaxes, notations, it is very helpful if you know what the other one is doing here, so you don't contradict it or use something that is completely different. We have courses such as computer graphics, which when you get to this point, you have up to you have multiple levels of calculus, you have lots of mathematics. We should use them in these courses so the mathematics doesn't become just something that you take because you have to. And for these courses here on the master's level, the project is supposed to be an illustration of these things. So if you have a course in modeling and simulation, you should use that in the project. This is allowed to be a more theoretical course where you don't get as far because you need to understand how things work. And then you can use a toolkit here. But there should be a connection. This project shouldn't be separate. You shouldn't build a web app here that has nothing to do with modeling and simulation, model-driven engineering, because then you're not using the synergies. And that's why coordination is important. Communication. Well, here we are going with a completely new course evaluation system that has a lot of communication. So we will have meetings, we will talk with the students, the PM and the course responsible will have a talk and together come up with what was the good part, what was the bad parts, what do we have to change. We will not view these in isolation, and you will not just press archive and then no one reads the course evaluations and we just assume that everything was fine. We need to have it like this. And sometimes there will be disagreements, and nothing is set yet. So I am not officially appointed as program manager for this program, but if I do get that appointment, I will be a nice dictator, but what I say goes. So if something has to be changed in the course, we will have a discussion about it. But you have to remember that courses they serve the program. The program does not serve the courses. The courses are there for a reason, and they should be well integrated in the program. This, of course, goes differently for courses that are shared by many programs, but in the end, we want to have a nice, cohesive program. And the final thing, which is this openness, is that we started by doing everything on GitHub. And I would like to keep it that way. We don't have to be on GitHub. If we install our own GitLab instance, we can move it there. It doesn't have to be under my name. It can be at an organization. But I would like to have an open system where everyone can see what the courses look like. Everyone can see the discussion, the debates going on. Because first of all, everyone will know where everything is. So you can never say, I don't know how to modify a syllabus. If you know where it is, you know how to do a pull request or just email someone who wrote it, then you can do it. In COSINFO, it's not that easy. You need to have access. You need to have everything. Here we can solve that on our own, and then someone, most likely me, will have the nice responsibility of taking it from here and integrating it into COSINFO and all those boring systems, so you don't have to. But the nice thing here is that we have a track record of everything. We can discuss, we can debate, and we can even have ways of students seeing this and be able to see and understand how we deal with all these documents. So we have everything there, and I would like to keep it at least somewhere close to there. The next steps, we hope to have a program manager appointed soon. Once that has happened, the program syllabus will be confirmed. That can happen on April 29th or June 3rd. We have two options. It doesn't really matter which one we pick, but we have both of them, and both of them are realistic, because in essence, only a few names of courses will change. Teachers involved in the first set of courses will be poked before summer, but expected to move into action after summer. And that is like in September. So if you have a heavy load in September, if we can start to do things before summer, that would be great. I will start from the list in the application when I look at the names of people in courses. And if you want to see that, it's available on GitHub. It's a fairly long list, but if you go for the ansökan and the appendices, you will find a list of examiners. I will poke the people there, and I will start from this, but I will discuss it with Matthias and Jesper before we start to sort of roll out, because we need to have people who have time to do it. So if you have two courses running in, let's say, September, then maybe you're not an ideal choice, even though the course is for you. Anyone can be part of this. So even if you're not supposed to give the course, I know that some of you have said, I want to be involved in this. I mean, it's here on GitHub. Come with comments. Do like pull requests. Come with changes to things that you think should be good. I mean, most of the books we have for now are not great, We will need better suggestions there, and there's lots of things like formulation, stuff like that. Unfortunately, since the application was in Swedish, a lot of this is Swedish only. But, well, translations are, of course, also welcome. If needed, and if you think all these matrices and goals and stuff that I talked about seems complicated, we will think about having some additional CDIO training after summer, just to make sure that everyone understands how to work with this. And I know that this is like this big, people say it all the time, but one of the things that I learned here is that what got us all the way this time was lots of hard work. And I know that the people who have been involved did hard work. I did some hard work here, and we've more or less lived this for multiple years. And I think that that was the winning goal, because when we get there, everything was thought through. We had good answers for every question. When they asked, why do you have this book, or why do you have this course in front of this one? We could say, this is why, this is the reason. And that is the hard work. And to get this to a point where we can actually be proud of it and sort of highlight the quality, hard work is the only thing that will get us there. So, if there are no other questions, then I'm done. Yes, Ola.
When you talk about that the master is starting now,
Yep.
and that we can possibly make modules, new semesters with other subjects, and
Yep.
then we should really think about that it will build on the 3 previous years with math and physics and so on.
Yes.
Then I realized that's not true for the current master.
No.
The current master that starts and the prerequisites in math or physics.
Yes, and it's one of these, I only touched upon it before as well, and this is one of our not super honest ways, but this is a way of tuning and getting to know the courses. And we will slowly tune them up so you get to a point where you need to have the mathematics and the physics to take these courses. And I mean, some of them, such as compiler construction, it will not require much physics, I don't think, but it will require some mathematics. And at the point that we're at now, to be honest, judging from last year's students, we could require no mathematics. We could require like 200 credits of mathematics. The result would be the same. They would still fail. But we will need, exactly like you said, to consider what kind of skills will they have when we have this fully built out. And I am at the point now where this is more of a test run, because my feeling for the master's program is that it's a lost cause. If we don't get better students, it makes no sense to keep running it. The engineering program is one way to get there. And if we then get additional students that fulfill these requirements and can take the courses, that's fine. But we should, when we roll out new courses, they should hopefully be courses that are easy to tweak so we can make them harder, do things more in depth. But
that
if we...
in a couple of years we have 2 choices. Either we change the prerequisite to the master so it fits with the first 3 years, even for the standalone master.
Yeah.
And it means that our students on other bachelor programs will be locked out from the master level.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
and that
is something we have to think about.
Yes, that is something we have to think about. But the problem is that I think that given that we don't, you still get the masters. I mean, one easy way is to just have a few different courses here. So if you don't have all the mathematics, maybe there are some courses. So for example, in this case, for the engineering program, this is a mathematics course in optimization. We decided to drop that from the masters now because it makes no sense to run it. So maybe we can do small tweaks there, or maybe we cannot do that, and we have to change the requirements, and then no one from the bachelor can take it, which would be bad. Or we lower them and then just say, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, the big universities are running this version today, so you can take it either as a bachelor in computer science or as part of the engineering stuff. And we have, if we look at the goals, we have tweaked it in such a way that many of the technical goals of the engineering education is fulfilled already after 3 years. So we can have more general things here, But at the same time, it's sad when we have courses in machine learning if we cannot use the fact that we know that they have courses in numerical methods, statistics, and if we have to dumb it down so that we have to give a brief intro about statistics here, which our students know. But at the same time, to have this long list of saying you need to have a bachelor's degree in computer science and you should have these courses in it, or 60 credits of mathematics, that also becomes quite difficult. But you're absolutely right. It's something we have to think about. Rafa?
You said something about possibility of starting with this part this year, but and then you just kind of like, yeah, let's see. I guess if there is a possibility, then we should start working like yesterday for that, for having this year in 2019.
Sorry. Once again.
Yeah, the inverted part where you start from the info this.
Okay. Yeah. So let me just be clear here. It's impossible this year because the courses will not start to run until next year. So if we were to have it this year, then you would give the students only for those students. So the idea is to roll it out by 2020 because then people who take the second year master would have gotten to this point.
I asked a couple of times, and this is what they say. We have, for the program, if you want to start a new program, you have to have the syllabus for the program ready on April.
Yeah.
There's no date on April when. They just say on April. But if it's 31st of April. So it's like, I'm thinking of myself like last day of April is fine. But even if it's last day of April, we have what? You can make I mean, you have syllabuses for the courses. So basically what you have to do is just tie it up in a one syllabus for the program. So that's why we should start working. It's realistic.
I mean, it's basically a one-day job at most. We need a name for it. We need a yes-no decision, maybe yes-no decision before we think about the name. And then we need to have some boilerplate text that describes what the purpose of it is. And they should be significantly different from the other master's program that no one asks why we have the two. But I mean, like Ilya said, we have all the courses, we have all the course descriptions, we have the names of them.
More or less the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just one quick comment on that.
Yeah.
I think it's really nice that we see the potential in this structure. However, I think that we should be a little bit careful, not trying to overexploit this structure too quickly, because there is a huge undertaking just in the regular program, the new master's programs, and etc. So trying to redefine and create new things, yes, but when we know that the other things are up and running. So I don't rule it out, but I think that it's the same thing as, well, other departments are now talking about new Masters of Engineering programs, but it's the same, there's like caution there. Let's build this slowly, let's not push it too quickly, because then we will just, I'm afraid, risk, well, big failures. It's much better if we work, take this step by step.
But on the other hand, it's also interesting what he said, that we should be able to test it before. Because if we only go for the original one, the final one, then we get there in 2005 or something, and we have no idea. Now we have to test it for the first time. Yeah. So that is also a big reason for it.
No, but
some more questions over.
yeah, unfortunately, I didn't see. I think there were. Yeah, sorry.
I fully agree. I think what Jesper said. You should try to keep it. Kind of. I admire your passion and enthusiasm with this, but I think spreading this up, it will be spreading it too thin, and the risk for failure will be increased dramatically. I think have something that works. Make sure focus on quality.
Yeah.
And then otherwise, otherwise it will be, because if we now just there will be like plenty of ideas here. You will end up with the master sub-specializations.
Yeah, no. I get what you're saying.
And that's not. No more slides.
Yeah.
So that was quite a finish of that. Thank you very much, Morgan. I think that this more or less. We had one more thing, and that was Diana informing, but she didn't send me any slides, so she has no slides, so she can do her job without slides, which is perfect. I have one more thing too before. Now I had to read from my cell phone here. I received an email from HR, and now we're closing in on this hall of shame. You know this thing that I've been nagging about now for quite some time, this bisyssla, that is like if you have any extra work, or if your work at the department is your extra work, still you have to go into Primula and find this little thingy, and there is some information that you should there is a checkbox that you should tick, just that, well, I received this information, and if there is a any of these bisyssla or additional engagement with some other employer, describe it, salary, etc., and then send it so that we get rid of. So I don't have to announce the names here. For instance, Diana, you haven't done it yet. So that's the introduction to Diana. So get up here, and well, yeah. And by that also, I will have to go now. But the rest of you listen to Diana, and have a nice weekend. And
Yes, but,
yeah.
how many times a year do we have to do this? I mean, I get confused. Like, did I do it this year or not? Because for me, it's like just ignore.
You have to do it once every year. The thing is that they announced it. They changed the rules. So now they pushed it out in January. Yeah, and so most people probably did it. Then I sent out 2-3 reminders. Some of you did it then. Some of you haven't done it yet.
I get new ones.
Yeah, I've seen another one who yeah. So whenever you receive, well, you get a new one, you should add it there. Yeah. Nu får du stå och hålla den här.
Okay, and I have to stand here because if I stand over there, you won't see anything. We, which is me and Francesco, received this task from Jesper to set up a research funding strategy for the department. Because at the moment we don't have that many projects ongoing, and there is quite a lot of ongoing proposals from different research groups, and we need to become more in line with what we are applying for, if we have more people that are applying for the same thing. We also want to become better at using the support that we can get from the Grants and Innovation Office. And this is also something that we have to submit to the KKS for the complete knowledge environment that Jesper discussed before. So one of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to send out the survey to all of you that I will hopefully send out this afternoon, where you have to reply to what type of funding are you using today, which ones, both national and international, are you interested in for the future, what type of support do you need, both when it comes to what I can help you with external partners, but also from Grants and Innovation Office when it comes to coordinating, especially international projects. We would also like to know if you belong to any international networks or Swedish networks, because for right now, for example, Francesco is the main contact person for Artemis, but I think there might be others that could be interested in that type of network and can benefit from it. We would also like to know if you have any, which is kind of related to bisyssla, if you have any if you're doing any evaluations of research proposals, so we can also see where we have extra competences. For example, if we have people that are working with Vinnova, and we can say, okay, these people are working with this type of evaluations of proposals, if we have others that are doing others, so we get a good overview of what we have. When we have discussions with Grants and Innovation Office, we will also try to set up, maybe if needed, a seminar series together with them to help the more junior researchers to become better. Because now when we met KKS and they took up the examples of other universities, for example, Mälardalen, they have pretty rigid processes for handling, for example, HUG and the different proposals, so they have internal selection. We started a little bit with this year related to the knowledge environment to see which ones will be submitted within the package and which ones would be for other things. So that's basically it. We haven't written much, that's why I don't show any slides, but our deadline is, the first deadline is on Monday. So we know what we're doing this weekend. But so please reply to the survey that I send out as soon as possible. It's just for your beneficial. Any questions? Anything you want to add, Francesco?
Maybe you should mention these days that we want to organize.
Yes.
For each of you to present.
I can say it here so they hear in Kalmar as well. I can say it here so they hear in Kalmar as well, because I don't think they hear from you back in the corner. We will have 2 days, one for national funding together with the Grants and Innovation Office to discuss both what type of proposal or calls that is upcoming, and have you to pitch not just for the process, but also let the others at the department know what you're working on now. Because we have several ongoing things. We have a few people that are working on VR. We have for Vinnova, we have for KKS, we have European projects, and I think it's good that everyone knows what's going on a little bit more. For example, with Vinnova, we have the digital tools, and Matthias submitted one in the beginning of this year, or middle. And now Iller is thinking about the same thing. So when we already had someone who used the same call, we could benefit from those experiences. So there will be 1 day for national and 1 day for international. Me and Francesco are meeting with the Grants and Innovation Office on Monday, and we will try to set up the meetings from late April, beginning mid-May. So we have it before the summer. Okay. That was it, and since Jesper disappeared, I think this is it for the meeting as well.